The US Democrats are struggling to find some candidate to run against Donald Trump who doesn't seem off the planet radical or clearly past it. And it's not gone well. Their first caucus, a ballot of Democrats in Iowa, was a disaster, and no one is sure what the real results there were. Today the contest moved to a second state, New Hampshire. This one went better, but not for Joe Biden. The former vice president for months was the poll favourite. The winner was instead the socialist Bernie Sanders, followed by Pete Buttigieg, the moderate, gay ex-soldier and mayor of a small city, very small. Behind them in third place was a surprise underdog Senator Amy Klobuchar, another moderate, and trailing far behind was Senator Elizabeth Warren, who used to pretend she was Indian, and poor Joe Biden, who sounded like a loser even when he was promising he'd do better next time when the contest moved south to where more African American voters lived.
It ain't over, man. We're just getting started. Should you not win the Democratic nomination for president, you shouldn't be able to win it without black and brown voters. Too often, your loyalty, your support, your commitment to this party have been taken for granted. I have never once in my career since I got involved as a kid taken it for granted.
Joining me is Doug Bandow, author, former special assistant to President Ronald Reagan and editor of the political magazine Inquiry. Is in Australia as a scholar in residence at the Centre of Independent Studies. Doug Bandow, it's very good of you to drop in. Thank you so much for your time. The contest so far seems between Bernie Sanders, an old-fashioned socialist who many think will be unelectable, and Pete Buttigieg, who's moderate but is attacked as inexperienced. He's young, a mayor of a city with just 100,000 people. How do you call this contest so far?
Well, clearly the two leaders are them. That Sanders has emerged as the left-wing candidate. I think that Elizabeth Warren is effectively out of it. She can't win, next to her state. She's not going to win anywhere else. Buttigieg still has a trouble because Klobuchar has come up, as you mentioned, a surprise. I think the real kind of alpha male potentially is Bloomberg, a billionaire, worth $60 billion US, who's been spending a lot, hasn't been on the ballot yet. So they're scrambling for the same voters. So Biden, I think, is on his way out, but not quite out. So the centrists, or the moderates as they're supposedly being, are still fighting over who's going to be the final one. Sanders looks like he's going to be carrying the left wing.
Well, that's interesting. Now, Sanders, like I say, a socialist, democratic socialist he calls himself. Here is Buttigieg after this latest poll, taking a shot at Sanders the revolutionary. Have a listen.
In this election season, we have been told by some that you must either be for revolution or you are for the status quo. But where does that leave the rest of us? Most Americans don't see where they fit in that polarized vision. And we can't defeat the most divisive president in modern American history by tearing down anybody who doesn't agree with us 100% of the time.
Doug Bandow, could Buttigieg really beat Trump, or is the fact that he's gay still a big negative in the United States?
I would hesitate saying anyone out there can't be elected. Barack Obama in 2008, people thought an African American couldn't win. He won very solidly. I think Buttigieg, there's been a real change in attitude, certainly among the young. He comes across very well. He doesn't seem very radical. I think he has the possibility. Frankly, what would hurt him more, I think, is a lack of experience. He's coming from the fourth largest city in Indiana. It's a very conservative state. He could never get elected statewide there. His experience is dealing with important issues at the local level, but is he prepared to handle the U.S. military? Can he deal with foreign policy? Can he run a health bureaucracy? I think these are issues he would have a lot of trouble with, and he has very little resonance with African Americans, who are a core constituency of the Democratic Party. So he's got a long way to go, and everybody else, of course, is taking shots at him. It's not going to be easy for him.
Okay. Well, the other rival, as you said, were, for that moderate vote to sort of be the counter to Bernie Sanders, is Amy Klobuchar. She came third. What's her appeal?
I think her appeal is that, number one, she is a woman, that she kind of, that idea of breaking the glass ceiling, that's something that is very appealing for a lot of folks in America. An African American has been elected, isn't it time for a woman? I think that's a very important issue. But she's also rather moderate. She comes from Minnesota, which is a state that Republicans can carry. They're strong in the state on local and state level. And she's somebody who's seen as working across the aisle, a contrast to Donald Trump. I think that she's really strengthened herself as a potential vice presidential nominee. Her problem is, does she have the money and organization to go from here? In March, there'll be about 29 different contests. The race really takes off. If you don't have money, if you don't have organization, it's going to be tough. She's almost starting afresh at this stage.
Well, the elephant who's not in the room yet is, of course, the billionaire publisher Mike Bloomberg. He's not yet joined the primaries. He's waiting a few weeks and spending millions on ads. But today he was hit by a leaked tape of him 5 years ago, defending the way that he dealt with crime as mayor of New York and singling out black males as the problem. Let's have a listen to a bit of it.
95% of your murderers and murder victims fit one MO. You can just take the description, Xerox it, and pass it out to all the cops. They are male, minorities, 15 to 25. That's true in New York, it's true in virtually every city in America. And you want to spend the money for a lot of cops in the street, put those cops where the crime is, which means in minority neighborhoods. So,
Doug, Donald Trump has since tweeted that Bloomberg is a racist, for saying all this. Was Bloomberg, in fact, just being honest, and is it going to hurt him?
Well, I think he was being honest. He's a big city mayor. The crime problem in a city like New York is extraordinarily difficult. We see that in Chicago, Baltimore, Washington, D.C. These are tough issues, so mayors have to deal with them. But I think it will hurt him. That the point is, it sounds very callous, and it fits in. Some of his policies were viewed as discriminatory. They called it stop and frisk. The police could simply say, we're kind of wondering what you're up to. We're going to stop you and kind of check you out. That was almost always directed at minority members, a very hostile reaction to that. This is going to make it much harder for him to break into the minority community, and perhaps Latinos too. They make up a large section of the Democratic electorate. These people are likely to look elsewhere. Even if they want a moderate, they're going to look elsewhere. They had been supporting Biden. He's been losing that support. They're going to be up for grabs.
Well, that's really interesting, because it seems the moderate vote is all, still very vague. Sanders is going to dominate the left. I just wonder whether America's ready for a socialist. I didn't think it was, but strange things have happened. Which of the candidates likely to be the front runners come, when the convention is held, which one would most worry Donald Trump?
Well, Donald Trump was worried about Joe Biden. I mean, Biden is somebody who's been around for a long time. He's never been an extremist. He was vice president. He seems trustworthy. He's kind of a mensch. I mean, he really is not kind of an exalted figure. As a human being, he's quite decent. But I think his candidacy is collapsing. I think beyond that, Klobuchar would be a threat. I mean, she has a moderate image. She has a good reputation on Capitol Hill. It's harder for Trump to demonize somebody like her. I think that Sanders would be an easy target. Warren would be an easy target, the fake Native American. I think Buttigieg is, it's not so clear. The question is, can he handle national pressure in a campaign? This is big leagues. Trump can dish it out. We don't know quite how he'd take it. If I was Trump, I'd worry about the so-called moderates and centrists, but it's not clear any of them have established themselves as a clear winner against him.
Doug Bandow, thank you so much for that terrific wrap. I really appreciate it.